After not quite completing my first Hardcore Nuzlocke of one of the hardest Pokemon games, I decided maybe my first successful Hardcore Nuzlocke should be one of the easiest. This is the story of my Pokemon X Hardcore Nuzlocke, full of familiar faces, devastating losses, and my greatest gaming achievement yet. I played with the Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which meant I had a level cap for each gym leader, had to play on set battle style, and the only items I could use in battle were held items. My journey begins when I get my starter, Chuck the Chespin. I tell my friends to address me by my nickname, My Lord, and quickly face off against Shauna's Froakie. Unfortunately, I missed the Pidgey encounter on Route 2, but I grab a few more friends before facing off against the Santaloon City Gym. I catch Patrick the Pansear in Santaloon Forest and Francis the Fletchling on Route 3, both of which have great type matchups against Viola, the bug-type gym leader. Then I head to Route 22 where I reunite with an old friend of mine. It's baby Marty! I fight my way to Viola in the Santaloon City Gym. Her first Pokemon is Surskit, who only knows Quick Attack and Bubble. Without knowing any bug moves to jeopardize Chuck, I start with him in the lead. Then comes Vivillon, who I have the perfect plan for. Patrick the Pansear swoops in to face off against Vivillon. I use Incinerate for super effective damage, but I've forgotten one crucial thing. The monkeys suck. The damage Incinerate does is minimal, and Vivillon traps Patrick with Infestation, and I'm unable to switch. As Patrick succumbs to his infestation, I suffer my first loss. Chuck is able to do enough damage to finish the gym battle and earn me my first badge. On Route 4, I catch Flo the Flabebe before heading to Lumio City. The battle against Professor Sycamore is a breeze, and I'm left with the difficult decision of who to choose as my Kanto starter. I don't need Bulbasaur since Chuck is currently leading my team, and I don't need Charizard's Fire Flying type, which would be the exact same as Francis once she evolves into Talonflame, so I choose Squirtle, welcoming Squire onto the team. I go to Route 5, where I run into a horde of Gulpin for my encounter. I pick off Gulpins one by one until I'm left with one remaining to catch. I name him Travers because naturally he's the cousin of Travis the Garbodor. Next up there's a bunch of story stuff with Shauna and the Parfum Palace and such, but not many important battles. On Route 6, I catch Vincent the Venipede, and on Route 7, I try to catch Snorlax, but it won't stay in the ball and I end up needing to finish it off before it would accidentally cost me a team member. There are still a bunch of encounters before I get to battle for my second gym badge. There really is a lot of story between the first and second gyms. On Route 8, I catch David the Drifloon, who will be one of the most important team members in the early game. I catch Harold the Hippopotas on Route 9, and Luna the Lunatone in Glittering Cave. Finally, I get the Jaw Fossil and revive it into Tyler the Tyrant. Silage Gym Leader Grant only has two Pokemon, Amora and Tyrant. I enter this gym with a team of Quilladin, Wartortle, Tyrant, Lunatone, Hippopotas, and Azurill. Amora I can take out with Squire's Water-type attacks, but not before I take some serious damage. I have to pivot a little bit to take out Tyrant, so I send out my own Tyler. Since I'm not playing with infinite rare candies on my actual 3DS, Tyler is a few levels lower than Grant's Tyrant, and it doesn't help that Grant gets a free attack against Tyler when I switch him in. Tyler goes down, my second loss of the run, but this gives me a free switch into Harold, who finishes the job. I'm devastated to accidentally kill my Route 10 encounter, a Golett, who is a very cool Pokemon, but I continue onward. I catch Sol the Sock on Route 11, and Balloon Guy the Mr. Mime in Reflection Cave, which of course is a reference to the Phineas and Ferb Summer Belongs to You special. In Reflection Cave, I run into a double battle against a Combee and a Vespiquen, so naturally I send out my Fire-Flying Francis to deal with the threat, who is now a Fletchinder. What I wasn't expecting was that Vespiquen had Power Gem, a rock-type move that did 4 times super effective damage against Francis, who died in one attack. It was here that I regretted my choice not to pick Charmander in Lumio City. Regardless, Marty also evolved all the way into Azumarill along the way, and David evolved into Drifblim. My next challenging battle would be against Serena at the Tower of Mastery. She leads with Meowstic, who I can handle with David's Ghost-type attacks. Next comes Absol, and I switch into Quilladin. Absol does have the ability Super Luck, an ability that increases the chance of critical hits, so I need to be even more cautious than Absol can do more damage than I expect. Fortunately, Quilladin is able to take Absol out with a super effective bug-type move, Pin Missile. Lastly comes Braixen, and I switch into Wartortle to take it out with super effective Water-type attacks. Now it's time to take on the Fighting-type gym, which was honestly a little ridiculous. I have David the Drifblim, a Ghost Flying-type Pokemon who can't be hit by Fighting or Normal-type attacks. Karina's first Pokemon, Mienfoo, only knows Fighting or Normal-type attacks. She has to switch in on her first turn to Machoke, who has Rock Tomb, which would be super effective against my Drifblim. I need this Drifblim alive, so I take the opportunity to switch into Balloon Guy, who again, is confusingly my Mr. Mime and not my Drifblim. Mr. Mime can take out Machoke with super effective side beams. Then Mienfoo comes back out, and I go into David, who again cannot be hit by a single one of Mienfoo's attacks. After coasting through Mienfoo, Karina sends out Hawlucha, who only knows fighting type attacks, and again cannot hit David. I sweep through Karina's Hawlucha and earn myself one of the easiest badges of the run. I then went to do the Lucario versus Lucario battle against Karina and actually lost due to receiving a critical hit. Since I wasn't using my own Pokemon, this doesn't count as the end to the Nuzlocke, but in fairness, I decided not to use the Lucario. Rest in peace. This next stretch though would be the most difficult part of the entire game for a very odd reason. The level cap for Karina's gym is 32, and most of my team is at or very close to this level cap. The level cap for the following gym against Ramos is only 34, meaning that I have to get through Route 12, another rival battle, and all of the Ramos gym trainers, while only gaining about 2 levels on each Pokemon. Of course, I turn off the experience share for this next bit, but for some of my strongest Pokemon, it seems surpassing level 34 will be inevitable. On Route 12, I catch Tyrone the Taurus. I then run into a Pokemon breeder who has the Pokemon Miltank. This bulky Pokemon can be very slow to take out, and unfortunately it also has the move Rollout, which gets stronger each turn that it's used for up to 5 turns. It starts out as only 30 power, but it doubles every turn, meaning that the 5th turn it's used, it has 480 power. I'm not able to take out this Miltank in 4 turns, and with that frightening 480 power 5th turn coming, I know I need to sacrifice someone. I decide to let Saul the Sock go, a decision I will later regret since this fighting type would be useful against 2 of Clement's Pokemon later on. This decision was based on my connection to the other Pokemon on my team, rather than their actual usefulness to me. I make it to Coumarine, where I need to battle my rival again, who has the same 3 Pokemon as before. I try to handle it using the same counters as I did before, but Absol Super Luck does get a critical hit against my Quilladin, and I need to change plans. I switch into Flo the Floette, hoping to get a super effective Fairy hit against Absol, but Absol Slash takes her out, losing me yet another Pokemon. I switch into Marty to take out the Absol, then keep him in to take out the Braixen. This does level up Marty to 35, meaning that I'll have to box him until I beat Ramos. As I navigate the Coumarine gym trainers, Chuck also reaches level 35. While neither Quilladin nor Marty are good offensive type matchups against Grass, I was planning to use Chuck for some safe pivoting against Grass moves and possibly his Bug-type Pin Missile attack. Regardless, I go up against Ramos with a team of Drifblim, Mr. Mime, Tauros, Wartortle, Swalot, and Hippopotas. I'm hoping that David can just carry us through the gym the way he carries Pokemon in Pokepark, but Jumpluff's powerful stab 110 power acrobatics do too much damage, and I need to improvise a new plan for both of Ramos's other Pokemon. Out comes Go-Goat, and I'm immediately in a tough situation. Go-Goat's Grass Knot would be super effective against Wartortle and Hippopotas, and Go-Goat's Bulldoze would be super effective against my best choice offensively, Swalot. I decide to switch into Balloon Guy, who does get some good damage against Go-Goat, but is eventually taken out. This is when I make the difficult decision to switch into David, who is already on low HP. David had been one of my most useful Pokemon so far thanks to the great Ghost Flying type, but I really see it as my only option to take down Go-Goat. Go-Goat knocks out David, but thanks to David's Aftermath ability, Go-Goat then loses a quarter of its total HP, which is enough to knock him out. From there, I can safely switch in Travers to finish off the Weepin' Bell. Between the 3rd and 4th badges, I had lost 4 Pokemon while struggling to deal with the low change in level cap, but I'm not out of the woods yet. Clement's gym has a level cap only 3 higher than Ramos's at 37, and I still need to go through the whole power plant. Not only that, but 2 of my best Pokemon are both water types right now who don't stand a chance in Clement's gym. Fortunately, the next route is perfect because I only have 3 options for encounters and all of them are ground types. I catch Tristan the Trapinch, and since I don't have infinite rare candies, I decide to do some switch training to level him up to be gym ready. Of course, I run into a Dugtrio with Arena Trap, so I can't escape or switch, and its high speed stat means that it very swiftly defeats my new friend Tristan. I have only one hope now to defeat Clement, and his name is Harold. I work my way through the power plant, and Marty and Squire both reach level 38, so they get boxed. I then head to train up Harold in Reflection Cave, which I decide is the safest place for him to get some experience. Soon, I'm ready to enter Clement's gym with a team of Chestnut, Hippowdon, Tauros, Lunatone, Swalot, and Whirlipede. I start out with Harold. Even though he isn't able to hit Emolga with Earthquake, his immunity to Volt Switch prevents Emolga from switching out, and Emolga's other attacks do barely anything. I use Crunch to take Emolga out. Next comes Heliolisk, and fearing its Grass Knot attack, I safely switch into Chestnut. Chestnut resists 2 of Heliolisk's 3 attacks, so it's a great option defensively. Unfortunately, I won't get a fighting type move by level up until level 60, but I'm still able to take Heliolisk out. Clemon's last Pokemon is Magneton, so I switch back into Hippowdon to take it out using Dig. This is your friendly reminder that Magneton does not have Levitate, and with that, I make it through Clemon's gym without any losses. My next rival battle against Serena goes basically the same as the first one. She has the same 3 Pokemon, they're just a bit stronger, and I make it through death-free. That means my next obstacle is the Laver Fairy Gym. Fortunately, I have 2 poison types on my team to counteract Valerie's fairies. I begin training them up on Route 14 where I catch a Carnivine, and Vincent is starting to become a menace. I know it doesn't have the best base stats, but it has great coverage with Bug, Poison, Dark, and Rock moves. That was until I encountered a Wild Goomy with the move Bide. I was multitasking while training up my poison types, and I didn't realize what Goomy had done until it was too late. Vincent was gone, and I was reduced to 1 poison type with Travers. It was frustrating to lose a cool Pokemon in a completely avoidable way. That being said, just like his cousin Travis almost saved my White 2 run, Travers comes to save this run against Valerie. I start out with Harold and take Mawile out very quickly with Earthquake. Mr. Mime comes in and starts to set up screens, giving me a free opportunity to keep Harold in and get some extra damage. When Sylveon comes in, I swap in Travers. With my super effective poison type damage, Sylveon is quickly defeated and I earn another gym badge without any deaths. At this point, I'm feeling pretty good about the game. I recovered from the challenging stretch with the level caps before Gens 4 and 5, and my team seems able to take on just about anything. I do the Team Flare stuff at the Pokeball Factory and Frost Cavern, and catch a few more teammates along the way. First, there's Fiona the Fungus from Route 15. Next, I caught Penelope the Pumpkaboo on Route 16. Then, I got Stefan the Sneasel on Route 17. Penelope and Stefan aren't too strong, but they both have good type matchups against the 7th Psychic Gym. However, the greatest addition to the team during the stretch would be Maxwell the Magneton from the Lost Hotel. I hurriedly headed back to Route 13 to evolve Maxwell into Magnezone and added him to my team. When I arrive in Anastair City, I have to fight Serena yet again. This time, she has a 4th member who I need to account for, Jolteon, but I easily take care of it with Hippowdon. I decide to try out Stefan the Sneasel against a gym trainer, but she is quickly slashed by an Executor's Woodhammer. I box Chuck and Travers due to their unfavorable type matchups against Olympia's Psychic team, and I enter the gym with a team of Magnezone, Hippowdon, Tauros, Blastoise, Azumarill, and Pumpkaboo. First up is Sigilyph, who I handle with Maxwell, but not before it starts setting up screens. Next up is Meowstic, who I use Harold's Crunch attack against. Finally comes Slowbro, and I maneuver into Squire. Unfortunately, Slowbro's Psychic does a bit more damage than I would like. I do get a bit of damage with 1 bite from Squire, but it's not enough. With Maxwell and Harold already injured and Tauros lacking in special defense, I decide that I want to safe switch into Marty. Just 1 hit and 1 crit from Slowbro's Psychic could take Marty out, so I let Penelope out to take a hit from Slowbro and she goes down. Then I send out Marty on full health, who is able to finish Slowbro off. I wasn't able to get 3 consecutive gyms without any losses, but at least this loss was a new weaker teammate who I intended to lose. Now it's time for the end of the Team Flare story, and I think I've settled into my team for the rest of the game. Marty the Azumarill leads the team with Bubble Team, Superpower, Aqua Ring, and Bounce, and I'm not far away from learning the long-awaited fairy type Play Rough. Chuck the Chestnut has Leech Seed, Seed Bomb, Pin Missile, and Body Slam. I'm still 12 levels away from getting a fighting type move. Next is Squire the Blastoise with Bite, Skull Bash, Aqua Tail, and Surf. Fourth on the team is Harold the Hippowdon with Crunch, Earthquake, Sand Attack, and Yawn. Then comes Maxwell the Magnezone with Thunderbolt, Spark, Flash Cannon, and Metal Sound. And lastly on the team is Tyrone the Tauros with the amazing coverage of Strength, Zen Headbutt, Thunderbolt, and Payback. I take this team to the Lysander Labs where I have a battle with Lysander. His first Pokemon is Mienfoo, so I lead with Marty. I use Bounce, both because it's a super effective flying type attack, but also because Mienfoo has the move High Jump Kick, a move that, if it misses, takes an astounding 50% of HP off the user in recoil. Next up is Gyarados, a surprisingly difficult Pokemon to take care of. Although I have a Magnezone who can do 4 times super effective damage with Thunderbolt, Gyarados has the move Earthquake, which can do 4 times super effective damage to me. I instead switched to Chuck, who can take any of Gyarados' attacks reasonably well. I use him as a pivot into Blastoise, who Mega Evolves and uses Bite a couple times to take Gyarados down. Next out comes Murkrow, so I switch into Maxwell and easily get rid of it with Thunderbolt. Finally is Pyroar, who I can take out with Herald's Earthquake. Over the course of this section, I have to fight Lysander 3 times, and each time he uses the same team but just gets a couple levels stronger, has evolutions for Mienfoo and Murkrow, and Gyarados Mega Evolves in the final fight. However, my counters for these Pokemon are the same each time, and I get through the Team Flare plot with relative ease and without losing any Pokemon. I also catch Xerneas, though I decide not to use it since it might be a little too powerful. This is a challenge run after all. On Route 18, I catch Jeffrey the Graveler, and then I arrive in Koraway Town, where Professor Sycamore wants to battle me. He has 3 Pokemon, each of the fully evolved Kanto starters. He starts with Venusaur, and I start with Chuck. Sycamore's Venusaur only knows Grass-type moves, so my plan is to take those attacks with Chuck's Grass-typing, while doing damage to Venusaur with the super effective Bug-type Pin Missile. However, Venusaur is very bulky, and a couple of low rolls on the number of times Pin Missile hits makes me realize that this plan will not work. Unfortunately, 3 of my other team members are weak to Grass-type attacks, and Petal Dance can knock any of them out instantly. My only safe option is to switch into Maxwell, who resists Petal Dance with his Steel typing. Maxwell uses a couple Flash Cannons and finishes the job that Chuck started. Next comes Charizard, and for that I can switch into Marty, who takes Charizard's attacks very well. With a couple of Bubble Beams, Charizard is gone. Last up is Blastoise, who I originally hoped to take out using Maxwell, but he was too damaged from Venusaur for a safe switch. I send in my own Blastoise instead, Mega Evolving to power up, and I take out Sycamore's last Pokemon. My next major obstacles are the battles against Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor. They each have 3 Pokemon, and their teams definitely have some significant flaws, but what makes this so difficult is that there is no opportunity to heal between Shauna and Tierno. Shauna starts with Delcatty, so I start with Marty, who knows the super effective fighting type superpower. Once Delcatty is taken care of, Shauna sends in Goodra. Ordinarily, Marty would be the best choice against Dragon-type Pokemon with his immunity to that type, but this Goodra has great offensive coverage with the Poison-type Sludge Wave that poses too much of a threat to Marty. I switch out into Hippowdon, who can take Sludge Wave very well, and uses Earthquake to eradicate Goodra. Lastly comes Greninja, who for some reason doesn't know any Dark-type moves, but does know Extra Sensory. This Psychic-type move means using Chuck as a counter is not an option, so I switch into Maxwell to finish Shauna's team off. Then Tierno comes charging right at me with another 3 Pokemon, and again, no time to recover. Marty comes back to the battlefield against Talonflame, a favorable matchup that I can win with Water-type attacks. Next is Crawdaunt, and I switch into Chuck for a great type matchup and take it out with Seed Bomb. Last up is Roserade, the last Grass type from a major trainer I'll have to face before the champion. Roserade only knows one move, Petal Dance, which as I mentioned with Venusaur can take out 3 of my team members. Chuck is out to start, but even he can't take more than 1 Petal Dance before I start to get into a frightening health range. Maxwell has already taken a bit of damage from Shauna's Greninja, so I can't safely switch into him either. The only Pokemon I have at full HP is Tyrone, who can take a Petal Dance if it's not a crit, but his special defense is low enough that 2 hits will certainly take him out. Tyrone has been one of my team members for so long, and I intended to take him all the way to the Pokemon League, but I make the hard choice to let him go. Maxwell now has a free safe switch in, and he can secure the victory. Trevor does heal my team after battling Tierno, and taking out his Pokemon is much easier. In need of a new team member, I catch my final 2 encounters of the journey, Kevin the Zoroark on Route 20, and Sierra the Scyther on Route 21. Despite how cool it would be to beat the game with the Zoroark, I opt to fill Tyrone's spot with Sierra because I think her bug flying typing would be more useful for my team. My plan for the final Ice-type gym leader Wulfric is basically just to use Maxwell's Flash Cannon. That gets me through most of the gym trainers unless they have a Pokemon from the Mamoswine evolution line who threaten Maxwell with their ground-type attacks. In those cases, I just switch to one of my 2 water types to take them out. However, I do run into problems against a random gym trainer. The problem is a Cryogonal with Freeze Dry, which has a 10% chance to freeze my Pokemon, and that's just what happens to Maxwell. And that's when I realized something terrible. Freeze Dry, despite being an Ice-type move, has an extremely unique attribute that it's super effective on water Pokemon who usually resist Ice-type moves. This means that all 5 of the other unfrozen Pokemon on my team are weak to freeze dry. I switch into Squire, who I think should have the strength to take a freeze dry, and then I can Mega Evolve him and do some damage, except that as soon as I switch him in, he gets frozen too. I decide that if I'm going to make it out of this battle alive, I need to make a sacrifice and get a free switch in. Sierra's first time on the battlefield will also be her last. Then Marty comes in and saves the day. Kevin joins the team and Wulfric is almost a breeze. His Pokemon have really terrible coverage and Maxwell should be able to fight through all 3 Pokemon, except once again, Cryogonal does something stupid and frustrating. This time, it's Confuse Ray. Maxwell got confused and hit himself a couple times, so I had to switch to Blastoise, who got confused and hit himself a couple times. At this point, I needed Marty to be in good health to take out Avalugg with Superpower, so I opted to send in Kevin. He didn't last long against the Cryogonal, but it gave Marty the chance to come in safely and finish off Wulfric's team. I bring Travers back onto the team and head for Victory Road, with only one major battle separating me from the Pokemon League, my rival, Serena. My team is in great shape for the Pokemon League though, and the way I crushed Serena's team is proof of that. Squire takes out Meowstic with bite attacks, Hippowdon takes out Jolteon with Earthquake, Azumarill takes out Altaria with Play Rough, Absol with Play Rough, and Delphox with Waterfall. Only 22 Pokemon now stand between me and victory. Let me go over the team one last time, since I've had some minor changes to my movesets at this point. My starter Chuck the Chestnut has Leech Seed, Seed Bomb, Pin Missile, and Hammer Arm. Traveling with me since Route 22, Marty the Azumarill has the amazing coverage of Waterfall, Superpower, Play Rough, and Bounce, all physical attacks to go nicely with his ability Huge Power. My other water type from Lumio City, Squire the Blastoise, has Bite, Ice Beam, Strength, and Surf. The cousin of my Garbodor from White 2, Travers the Swalot, has been with me since Route 5 and knows Ice Beam, Yawn, Toxic, and Sludge. Also with me for a very long time since Route 9, Harold the Hippowdon knows Crunch, Earthquake, Sand Attack, and Yawn. And finally, the newest but incredibly helpful Maxwell the Magnezone found at the Lost Hotel has Thunderbolt, Discharge, Flash Cannon, and Metal Sound. Let the league begin. First, I face off against the Fire-type user, Malva, the Elite Four member I am most prepared for. Harold starts the battle, taking out Pyroar and Torkoal with Earthquake until he needs to switch out. Squire and Marty finish off Chandelure and Talonflame, and I'm easily and comfortably on my way to the second Elite Four member. Next, I challenge Wikstrom, the Steel-type Elite Four member. Harold uses Earthquake against Klefki while Klefki sets out Spikes, a hazard that won't be much of a problem thanks to Harold's ability to annihilate all of Wikstrom's team with Earthquakes without needing to switch out. Again, I secure a victory without any worries. Third is Water-type trainer Cybold, who I need to be a bit more careful against. I begin with Chuck against Clauncher, who I take out easily with Seed Bomb. Next comes Starmie, who could almost certainly wipe out Chuck with Psychic, so I switch into Squire, Mega Evolving and using Bite until Starmie is gone. Gyarados comes out next, and Squire is too weak to stay in, so I switch to Marty. This is where things get very scary. Gyarados uses Dragon Dance, increasing its attack and speed by 1 stage. Marty doesn't do enough to take Gyarados out, and instead I get hit by a powerful Earthquake. Expecting another Earthquake, I switch into Chuck, who can handle ground-type attacks, but instead, it sets up another Dragon Dance. Chuck also doesn't have the damage output to take Gyarados out, and I need to make another switch if I want to keep him alive. But with Gyarados already having set up 2 Dragon Dances, there is no way I can defeat it without sacrificing someone and getting a free switch in. I wanted him to make it all the way to Diantha, but I send out Travers against Gyarados, and he goes down to an Earthquake. He can finally be with his cousin, resting in peace. Marty is able to finish the job on Gyarados, and the Scrats in my team are able to band together and finish Cybold's Barbaracle as well. Now reduced to 5 Pokemon, I head to Drasna. Drasna, the final Elite Four member, is a Dragon-type user. Her Dragalge is part Poison-type, so I begin the battle with Harold, who can use Earthquake to take it out. Then for the rest of the Dragon-type Pokemon, I send out Marty, who is immune to Dragon-type attacks. I can repeatedly select Play Rough to get through Druddigon, Altaria, and Noivern, and with that, I've beaten the entire Elite Four with only 1 tragic loss. Marty, Chuck, Squire, Harold, Maxwell, and I head to the Radiant Chamber for a showdown that will define my Pokemon career. Diantha's first Pokemon is Hawlucha, so I begin with Marty. Although Hawlucha has the super effective move Poison Jab, Marty has enough bulk to take the hit and knock out Hawlucha with Play Rough. Aurorus comes out next, threatening to wipe out Marty with Thunder, so I switch into Magnezone, who can take the hit well and annihilate Aurorus with the 4x super effective Flash Cannon. Next is Tyrantrum, so I switch into Herald, who can take it out using Earthquake. I'm halfway through Diantha's team without any losses, but some of my Pokemon have taken some serious damage. Since I want to preserve as much of my team's health as possible for Diantha's final Pokemon, I decide to get as much damage in now as possible by keeping Herald in and using Earthquake. He takes Goodra down to low health, and Goodra takes Herald out with Muddy Water. Herald goes down as a champion, fighting until the very end. I send out Chuck to finish Goodra off. Then comes Gourgeist, a Pokemon I'm a bit afraid of due to my team's overwhelming grass weakness. Since I know Chuck won't be useful against Diantha's Mega Gardevoir, I decide to stay in and get as much damage as possible on Gourgeist using Pin Missile before it takes me out with Phantom Force. Chuck, my very first Pokemon, leaves us in our final battle together. I send in Squire at full health against Gourgeist since I want him on the field and ready when Gardevoir comes out. Squire finishes Gourgeist off with Bite, and the final showdown begins. Squire gets some great damage in with Surf, enhanced by his own Mega Evolution, but a couple Thunderbolts from Mega Gardevoir take him out. My friend since Lumio City, Squire is the third casualty in this battle. I send out Maxwell, who takes a hit from Gardevoir, then uses the super effective Flash Cannon to finish the fight. We have done it. My team has defeated the Pokemon League, and I have completed my first ever Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge. This victory was led by an incredible team of Pokemon, 5 of which I'd had since before the second gym. Let's take a moment to celebrate the Pokemon who got us this far, and remember those we lost.